Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the tech team. Appreciate you already. My first card says, be brief. Yes, my name is Aviona Rodriguez-Brown. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the founder of ARB Consulting Arts, and I'm a local here to Seattle. Float Seattle is my float space. Woo-woo! Thank you so much for having me. I want to share that I'm really excited to have this conversation about community engagement. Let's get to it. And the real subject matter, because I want to point out there have been some really great discussions about community engagement already this weekend. It was such a boisterous weekend, so much information flowing in and flowing out. Really excited about that, but today we're going to hyper-focus on trust, specifically in diverse communities. Some people, I'm from the neurospicy community, so some people really like to know what's ahead of them. If you want to know, this is just for you. But really, we're going to get to an understanding about why trust is important and then get some actionable points for you to walk away with. A little bit about ARB Consulting Arts. We really fundamentally are putting together intergenerational art exploration spaces, which is building self-awareness practices into diverse communities. And why are we talking about community engagement if we're an arts agency? Well, because we learned we can't necessarily do it on a secular level. We have to go out and find people where they already are at and put the art in front of them and say, hey, come try this thing. And so there's a little bit more groundwork to introducing art to people who don't have access to it or who don't have a relationship with it just yet. Today, our goal is just to come together in a groundwork understanding about community engagement, about communities of color, build in some inclusive practices, and get some action-oriented planning. Okay, community agreements. Thank you for being here. You already are telling me you want to be here. I really appreciate that. And I wanted us to just know, from my experience thus far, the FloatCon has already been a safe space, and I want us to move into a brave space. So I'm going to ask y'all some questions. If you feel called to answer, please do. And because people are going to be maybe giving a little bit of themselves, I just put up some community agreements and hope that we can agree to them. So the first one is take what you learn and leave what you've heard. If someone shares a personal story, that's not your story to then go and tell. Please leave their story here, but take the core understanding of what they shared. And all contributions are valid. We're all on a different area of the spectrum when it comes to DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion work. Everyone has where they're at, and that is absolutely valid. So please don't feel any type of way about it. And again, you being here already states you want to learn more. Some people may or may not have experience with this one. Move up, move up. If you are, like myself, very outgoing, very extroverted, answer questions on often, have the answer right away, or want to get into the conversation, we invite you to step up and out of the way into a space of listening. And if you are more of an introverted person, someone who maybe doesn't share as often, we invite you to step up and take up that space that we're making for you in this conversation. And lastly, listen to hear. I'm going to say and share some things. The subject matter is hard altogether, as we know from our political climate. So if something is bubbling up in you and it's feeling squishy and icky, I invite you to listen to it, take a very deep breath or a few, and wait, hold, hear what other people have to say, and we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. But really listen to hear what's happening and ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? And listen for your own internal response. So those were some really basic community agreements. Can I get a whoop whoop or a thumbs up or a little shake? All right, we're in this together. Here we go. So I want to know who's in the room. I've met a lot of you, so I know who's in the room, but also, can I get a show of hands if you are an owner, co-owner, or co-op owner who is already in partnership with other organizations? Great. Dope. That's like 85, 87% of the room. Very cool. Okay. How about hand up if you are the same demographic and your partnership is someone outside of the wellness sector. Love it. 2, I love it. That means we have work to do. And 3, if you are an owner, co-owner, co-op owner who is of the global majority, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color identification. Yeah, cool. All right, great. Thank you. That's really for me so that I know where we're deep diving. Why does trust matter in these communities? Well, a lot has happened to these communities, specifically communities of color. There's a really great author, Natalie Y. Gutierrez, and she wrote the book, The Pain We Carry, which really deep dives into communities of color and their relationship, our relationship to CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And let's imagine, well, let's read the statistics first. But when folks experience rapid trauma on a regular occurring basis, the really only way they have to go is unfortunately death. Death can be by a variety of things. I'm an addict, so we talk about the choice of using is actually a choice towards death. And self-harm, incarceration, broken family units, there's lots of different things that are results of post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's really because we as individuals, our innate experience when we're having a traumatic event, if we were a deer being chased by a bear, and for some reason the bear gets distracted, it falls, the deer is safe, the first thing that a deer does is shakes its body to shake that trauma from sticking. We as human beings, specifically of the BIPOC community, do not have the opportunity to shake because as we're stepping out of one trauma, we're already experiencing the next one, whether it be societal, interpersonal, family. And so that's one of the reasons why our communities are so intersecular. We tend to stay in what we know is safe, and sometimes there's even internal harm. And so there can be some internal divide. But again, we find our people, we're safe here. And for folks who that's working for, I'm not knocking it, just want to clarify. That is a safety mechanism that's working for some, and for some people, it's also elevating them to the next level to uplift themselves. But I really believe that we can cross-culturally come together and do that same work. We just need a little extra time to get there. So we're going to talk about a community-first approach. And what this really means is we are, here in Seattle, we have the Seattle Freeze. Anyone heard of that? Well, a lot of people don't know what the Seattle, there's the concept that if you're in Seattle, people won't talk to you, or it's going to be really hard to build community because of, quote unquote, the Seattle Freeze. Historically, that is true because the people who actually founded Seattle, it was a port, the last stop on the way to the gold rush into Alaska, and it was literally just for selling goods. So the AAPI, Asian community, are ground workers of Seattle, as well as the Scandinavian community, and these communities, again, intersecular. You go get your goods, and they go home. There's not much cross-pollination. So that's the basis of Seattle. So this Seattle Freeze isn't on purpose. We're not purposefully saying, hey, you're not from here, so we're not going to hang out with you. It's just what has been and is ingrained in the formation of the city. We can also equate this to like sports in high school. Either you're a sports person or you're not. And we've already established we're weirdos here, so it makes sense. While reading the shout out first to the Float Tank Association and Float Tank Solutions for their report about the state of the industry. Personally, I love numbers and I love reading, so this was really great. And I wanted to just applaud y'all because you are already doing the work to try and make floating as accessible as possible. A lot of the centers are open 7 days a week. A lot of the centers are already inclusively owned. A lot of the centers are already having first-time floaters in the room. And so, and there's an average price that wavers in between something that's affordable and equatable to eating out nowadays. So it's really, I just want to say this is a really exciting time to also incorporate some community-first collaboration. when we and um, and in doing so, I think that one of the things that we'll actually get to from incorporating these practices are diversifying the owner space. How can folks own something or be a part of it if they don't actually know that it's for them or accessible in that way? And thinking of the table analogy, which is usually quantified with DEI work, instead of adding a seat to the table, then the table gets crowded, folks are talking over each other, there's not much room at the table. Let's instead go old school and add a leaf to the table, extending the table wider so that everyone has their own spaces that they can then speak from. So one of the things that we're going to talk about, and I've heard that papers have been passed out, I made a spreadsheet for community mapping. This is really an option for you to take a look into what people are already doing in their community, what people are putting together, and how they're reaching folks, where folks are showing up to. A good example of this, a real world example, the last client that I was working with, they had a very culturally specific event that they were looking to hold. Client A, we'll call them, wants the community to show up for this event, but has no prior engagement with this community in any way, shape, or form, and have one person who they're connected to in the community. So we took 7 months. We took 7 months to figure out how we can actually get them in the room. That really started in a offering for folks to come in and find out a little bit about us, a little bit about what they were wanting to do, a little bit about the intention behind the event, why it was so important to incorporate community, and why it was not ideal for them just to put the event on and expect folks to show up. They had already a history of that and had not had a population show up. So we really went through it and utilized the slogan of the diversity rights movement, which is nothing about us for us. And we said, well, where are we going to find folks? And really, we looked at business owners like yourself, and we said, where will folks be? Well, they are out at worship spaces, they are out at community gathering spaces, festivals, especially if it's a culturally specific festival, finding folks exactly where their needs are being met. Again, community-owned businesses and support groups. And we even found an a rock band that was culturally specific. Dengue fever is specific to the Khmer Cambodian community. And we partnered with the lead singer and said, hey, you have roots in Seattle. Can you connect us to folks out here so that we can connect them to this event that we're looking for? Once we found where people were, we then started to have face-to-face, or at that time, Zoom to Zoom, meetings to actually connect with folks and say, hey, this is what we think we want to do. This is what our budget is. And we know we aren't the experts in this field, in this community. How would you suggest we move forward? Are you interested in partnering with us? So we actually got the involvement of 8 different community organizations, and we went out to 25 different community events to actually bring awareness. This was tabling, this was just being representatives in the space. This was also getting some time sponsoring events or getting some time to be able to speak on the mic and talk about the importance of why we want to create that inclusive space for them. And the organizations we were working with decided, hey, of that budget, let's distribute it among this food group, the people who are cooking over here, this dance company over here, these students, photographers over here. So that way, it wasn't just all going to one bank or one people, but instead being spread out amongst the community. And we're really proud of these numbers. We went from maybe having about 15 people who had purchased tickets on their own before any of this type of engagement work to the day of the event, cycling through about 700 people. It was like 690 some, so 700 people. And additionally, through the run of the entirety of the events, we actually had 500 folks who had never experienced any of our offerings come through our doors and buy memberships, or become one-time ticket buyers. So I think that, again, we just need to get in front of folks and talk with them, bring in their expertise, and once we do that, we can actually start to see diversity in the room. So a few basic concepts, which again are on this spreadsheet, are what is going on in your neighborhood? What's already happening? How is the community already being served? And seeing who's putting that on, then that's where the conversation starts. Not necessarily just going to the event, but how can I actually get to the organizers of that event to see where we're in alignment? Once you actually get that conversation going with them, then actually learning what is it that they are needing, what are they wanting? Because we might think, oh, of course they want floats because we know the power of floating, but we may not actually know in what way they need to get there. We might think it's just through the door, but actually it might be here and then there, and finally they've walked through the door. And one thing that I find in these types of conversations, sometimes going into them, they might feel like negotiations, a little icky. We know that we're going in wanting them to buy floats, or we want them to buy into what we have. And there might be some trepidation from the community of like, just another thing that I have to get into. So instead, asking, what are your dreams? Because whether or not, I think just from hearing some of the conversations that we've had so far, we're on the same philosophy mindset. We all want our communities to be better, to be more well-rounded, to be more self-aware, and to be able to elevate to that next level. And we're all thinking we have to do it alone. So if we can actually sit down and share, what are your dreams? For example, what are your dreams for your float center? What are your dreams for your community? And just by letting folks go off script from what they think they're about to talk about, and just creating this open space for folks to just boom, 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 it becomes a beautiful experience where you're actually hearing, oh, that's not hard to acquire. I actually can get to that. Listening to the doctor right before this of putting the idea out into the universe and finding the doors that open for you. A really beautiful experience of how we can actually get to that together. And lastly, how can I, as an individual, get involved? I think that these are really important because, again, we have very limited time, but making it a statement for how we can actually, what ways there is maybe support needed, or maybe further explanation, further experiences. One example of this is maybe they are interested in you talking, but they don't need a sponsor. They just need another body to help set up. Great. Maybe you can dedicate a few hours to volunteering for that event, and in exchange, go and talk about floating or get a table in exchange. So finding creative ways to support the work that they're doing to then further our work into the space. I put these arrows just to show it's slightly reciprocal. There's give, there's take, and there's support. And back and forth. When we're talking about inclusion, it comes in a variety of ways. And a lot of the time, it starts with just affirming, listening, and validating folks from where they're at. And again, that's where that dream conversation gets in. A lot of folks, we're on the go, 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 trying to get that task done. We may or may not actually get to the dream space together. So by even just asking that question and letting down our barriers of what we think we're about to experience, we actually are allowing folks to explore, and we're accepting what they have to say, and we're going beyond what we actually are, what we think is going to happen in the room. So a lot of us are looking for validation and uplifting. A lot of us are looking to just be heard, and for allyship in this type of open way, and less of, hey, I need a thing from you, so can you fill this need? So when we're taking this worksheet, I wanted to do practices with you, and I felt like it was actually best, especially because we're all from different communities across the country and elsewhere across the world, to actually map out what types of events folks are going to. I know in the community engagement conversation that happened yesterday, diversifying the types of events you hold in your space is always a good plan, but really looking at, okay, where are folks going? Oh, they're going to that music festival. They're going to be standing for 8 hours, 3 days in a row. Aren't they going to need some self-care after that? We're not kids anymore. So we all know that that's the case. How do we actually get in there and communicate that this is something they can help to rejuvenate themselves back to their pre-concert weekend? Also, what is actually mattering? What is mattering? What matters to the community? When we're seeing what's going on in the world right now, a lot of folks are hyper-focused on many different things, and there's a great deal of things to be focused on, and finding ways to support. Loved the conversation of the Maui Calm. That's a beautiful example of that. And how can we do that on a minute level in our immediate circles? Talking to the small business coffee owner next to you, not knowing that they're putting in 18-hour days, that's a collaboration right there. How can we get that person, that singular person in the room who has access to the hundreds of people that come into their coffee shop? Because as soon as they're bought in, as we know, we learn what it is and we're in, we're 100%. So I think that that's really what we're getting to is like, great, what is drawing the community? What is popular? How is it getting people in the room? And how and where can I align? And for you, before you even write that email or use AI to write the email, before you do that, just while you're looking at those folks that you've identified, you yourself write down some dreams. Oh man, wouldn't it be cool if we collaborated with those farmers and somehow we were able to put some of their excess food in the front room so then folks who needed it could come and get food? Wow, fantastic. That's a great dream to bring to the meeting of like the moment I learned of you and your work, these are the things that popcorn was coming out of my head. And we may not collab on that, but are you already working on something with, are you already working with someone on that? Because if not, we should find a way to get that going. And that's the kind of juices we want flowing when it comes to cross sector collaboration, because we all have our own expertise, but how are we actually uplifting one another? And then again, for you yourself, before you actually step in that room with them, think about potential roles of support that you could give. Yes, it is the business owner who has a service to offer. And do you have folks that are already volunteering? Is it an organization who volunteer? Is there a way for for you to actually learn more about them, or as we learned from the doctor, maybe join their board? What are the ways that you're interested in supporting their mission, and vice versa? How do you think that you already align? So again, that's the community mapping side. And for folks that are online, you should have this document as well. Really, it's finding alignment with the community. A lot of folks are thinking we're all doing this separately, but again, how are we working parallel? What are things that are crossover? And how can we do this better together? Talked about that? Great. When we're talking of community sponsorships, again, we want to find out our creative ways of how to get in front of people that may or may not be tabling at their event, or being present, wearing your own merch, and having someone say, hey, what's that about? Being able to bring new concepts into communities that really haven't experienced it is a great way. Also, I heard some folks talking about donation floats and or nonprofits coming in to utilize floats on a free platform. Great opportunity. And is there a way to build awareness through that giveaway program? Again, sometimes it might be that a organization that helps folks with mental health is doing a back to school program, maybe then anyone who comes to back to school can put their name in a raffle for their local float organization. Now, they may not have any concept for what floating is. People love to win things. That's just the truth about it. So immediately, they've already started filling it out and reading the document that you've provided about what floating is, about the organization. They've maybe even scanned your QR code. So now, whether or not they win the raffle, there's 25, 75, 100 people who just learned about your center and floating right then and there. So really, it's how can I be creative about getting in front of people who know absolutely nothing about what I have to offer, and unless I was in their space, they would never know about it because we may or may not ever cross paths. Mutual trades. Again, what do you have? What do I have? And for some people, it's not equatable. A $100 float may not be equatable to backpacks full of school supplies for some, right? So what are ways that things can be traded in a extremely creative way? And lastly, how do you connect to those who are already doing the work and need wellness practices? Because once we have that one person in the room who has access to their platform of 50, 60,000 people, that person is going to change things. I think an example of this, and if you hear this, please reach out to any of the beautiful people in this room across the world who have float centers. But I think of Andre 3000. He's known very well for his work in Outkast and rapping in the rap game, right? Has revolutionized music in that way. And if you recall, about 2-3 years ago, put out a flute, very soundscape album, and was interviewed by, I think, the Oscars, and they were like, why is this the thing that you did? And he talked about, well, I have nothing else to say, and if you're not listening, you don't get it. So can you imagine if Andre went floating and then talked about float, again, to his platform? So really, it's how do we reach the people who are doing the work in the community, who have the following, who are actually making a difference for their following of people, and get them into floating? How do we do that? My favorite. No matter what you do, no matter which angle you aim for, there are going to be missteps. So it's better to plan for them. One, remember, we're all working on the scarcity mindset because that's what we've been programmed to believe is true. There's enough for everyone. So take it slow, take it steady, especially if you're having conversations outside of your personally lived experience. That's okay. And know that we might need that 7 months of planning. We might get 2 meetings in and take 5 steps back. That is okay. And I know for business owners that can be detrimental, but it's important work. Another element is trial and error. When we're talking about what we can give, what events we can plan, granted, we have an idea of the biggest possible event. Maybe it's a conference. But we don't start at a conference. Maybe we actually start at that 2-hour, this is where folks can come in from that community, ask questions, sign up for a float. And it's really a dedicated time for that community to have access to your space. Start small, work your way up, scaffold up to the big. SWOT analysis, anyone know what that is? Okay, that's okay. SWOT, S-W-O-T, is looking at an event after it's happened and analyzing the strengths, weaknesses, obstacles, and targets. What was working, what wasn't working, or what were points of contention, weaknesses, obstacles, what were things that could have been better if we had maybe gone a different way, and how can we be better, targets, because it's not one and done. Again, trial and error. It might fail the first time, it might work out. You might get 4 people in the room. That's 4 more people that didn't know about you yesterday. So really working through that. And when you don't know something, asking questions. It's hard to admit that we don't know. It's hard to admit that we're trying something new. It's hard to admit that I might make a mistake. And when you come up to that line, taking that deep breath and stepping forward and owning it and say, I don't know what to do here. It's getting really difficult for me. How can we move forward? Granted, there are folks in the BIPOC community who are willing to make that journey with you and say, great, let's work on it together. And there might be folks who give you a book and say, read this and come back once you've done it. And there might be folks who say, I can't help you with that. Knowing that that's the possibility, there's a full spectrum of responses, but being able to say, I don't know, is a powerful mechanism, specifically when working outside of your own lived experience, because it's gonna make a world of difference in anyone across the table's understanding of you to say, great, they're open to learning. And that right there is miles ahead of the rest of the population who's not. And lastly, please don't make any promises. There's no way that we can promise something's gonna go well. There's no way that we can promise that we're gonna make it to next month in this case, right? We have to know that things are gonna shift, things are gonna pivot. If there's anything we learned from the pandemic, it's that yes, we might be heading on this straight course, and occasionally I might need to take a sidestep, or we might be working into this partnership, and actually I don't have the capacity because we've got a small team. Can we take a few months off? So being able to be flexible, being able to call out, I don't want to call them shortcomings, but being able to call out where things are working and how and when we need to stop. Promises are hard takeaways. And I'm so glad to say I made the timer. So the last thing that I have on the other side of the handout is the partnership planning. And again, this is for you. Let's say you've already used the first side, the community mapping. You've already identified who they are, what they're doing, why they're important to their community, and what dreams you might have for a future partnership with them. On the other side, it's really doing that deep dive homework to know more about them once you're getting in the room, once you're getting that sit down and actually saying, hey, I've done my research. I know this, this, this. And when they're talking about themselves, actually listening to hear again. And I did add some suggested reads at the bottom here. Donna Walker-Kuhn is really going to talk about that audience diversification, really getting new communities in the room. She does some really great work going ahead of a touring event to go and ensure the community knows what's going on. A lot of these principles that I spoke about. Edgar Villanueva, the Decolonizing Wealth. Also, again, just thinking outside of our current spectrum of our relationship to money in this country and really thinking of other things as currency, not just the money we have and the money we need and the real cost, but how, again, is my time a part of my currency? Is my people, my followership a part of my currency? And lastly, Ijoma Olua, she is a local author, Be the Revolution. If there is a specific demographic you're looking for, she has gone chapter by chapter, demographic by demographic, talking, it's interview style, so she's talked to people in each movement about the work and why the work is important and how it differs movement to movement, people to people. And then at the end of each chapter, there's some really actionable steps you can take in your immediate community for how to support those movements. So just wanted to uplift their work. And again, the last one I suggested was The Pain We Carry by Natalie Y. Gutierrez about CPTSD. All right, great. So what are your questions? Thank you. Yes. Oh. Mm-hmm. Yes. I would, two things. I'm so sorry to give you trash TV as a way to get there. But there's a lot of those like football wives of Atlanta or wives of, and I know, I'm so sorry, your face, my feelings, well, they're equatable. But honestly, I would watch one episode of that for your city or your sports team and see like who is the head honcho. Then I would go through the social media platform of that person, and maybe some of you have experienced this with me. Like many photos, then comment on many things, then send a message, and or if they have like a way to contact them on their social media platform, do that as well. But that way, they're seeing the notification, they're like, oh, okay. Then they're seeing more notification, oh, okay. Then they see the message, and I'm like, okay, if I have time. Then all of a sudden, their manager, whoever is the person managing their email, because they don't manage their emails, whoever that person is would then like, hey, we got this email, and now your name has popped up in their head. It's like the McDonald's red. You don't want McDonald's until you see it. And so it's that sort of planting the seed for them. That's one route I would take, or I would actually go a different route and see if there is a manager or I did this with our Major League Baseball. I actually found out who was the person signing the checks. Then from there, I found out, am I connected to them in some way, shape, or form? I found out that his like third in command was on a board that I had proximity to. So then I went to that board and said, hi, I would love to speak to this person. If you can send them this, I wrote a little proposal out of what I had to offer, why this was important to me. I would love to sit down, take a minute with you to talk about this. Sent it to this person and said, can you please pass this off to the person that I've identified I think can help, or someone you think is better tracked for this? And then next thing I know, I get a call from this person that I was reaching out to. So sometimes it can be that. It can be we're going here to go there to finally get to the person. So it is a little strenuous, and that's why it's really important holistic work to do a little bit of that research, and I hope that the community mapping can actually help with that. Housewives of, and then your city. Yes. What sports team did you say? Or the sports center? Ohio. Yes. So I would go to their association. Sorry, I thought it was a sports, an active sport, like people who are actively playing the sport. So I would go to their board and start there for the Hall of Fame. NFLPA. Other questions? That was a great one. Thank you. Are there folks who feel overwhelmed by this information? Honesty. I see some shaking heads. That's okay. Yeah, it is overwhelming. And I think, again, listening to you all in the state of the industry and listening and talking to individual owners and my relationship to Float Seattle, I know that there are so many minute day-to-day tasks that you're already thinking of. So maybe thinking outside of your Float Center may be a difficult task. I agree. And you have the best resource already available to you. The people who work for you. The people who are in your space, already running the space, they're your first resource. What are they doing outside of the space? Who are they following? What are things that inspire them? And actually bringing those human connections up in your one-on-ones or your staff meetings can actually get you to see, okay, great, this is their bubble, and it's already outside of my bubble. And tapping into some of those community events, those community people, then gets you sort of wiggled into what else is happening out there. Also, your local, if you have a local arts paper, here in Seattle, we have The Stranger or Arts PI, and those things can be a really great way into, because folks are really looking for how do I get out of my experience? I know this is not it. I know whatever I'm stuck in is not the way that I should be. So how do I actually get to a better experience? How do I have a happier life? How do I live in joy? And so being able to sort of experiment in those same spaces. Locally here, we have the Seattle Art Fair, which is actually a national traveling art fair, but they come here and park for a month. Being able to get into that room, getting an ad in their newsletter or paper. Again, how can you get your name, your business in front of people who are unlikely to see it otherwise, into a space and into a community who is consciously aligned or who is looking to better themselves in some way, to get out of their current experience and try something new, to challenge themselves to be better people and to be in different spaces. Those are the people that we want to tap into, who are already one step ahead of the rest and looking for something and seeking it out actively. So that's a little bit about how we can get there. I'm going to ask one more time because I have 1 minute. Any other last questions sneaking up? Yes. Yeah. Yes. At the bottom of the worksheet that is passed out or virtually, you'll have direct email address to me and my team, info@arbconsultingarts.org. We are, and, oh yeah, that's me. That is a number that goes to my phone. But really, I'm actually flying out tonight to work with one of my clients in New York, and I'll be there for the next few weeks. So I think that this is across spectrums. I think this is, across sectors, because we are all trying to have a better lived experience than what we are currently experiencing. And we know that there's people out there who are like-minded. We just haven't found them yet. And when we're stuck into that normalcy, or what we have been programmed to believe is the normal, we think that that's all there is. So we don't know what we don't know. And it's our job to help inform people what they don't know. And getting ahead into their spaces is really the only way, especially when we're talking about BIPOC diverse communities. Again, we're in a secular experience because that's where we found safety. And so we have to actually step into the circle and say, I'm safe too, and what I have to offer is safe, and it's going to help. And you got to trust me, and I want to trust you too. And I don't know what I'm doing, so let's do it together. Thank you so much for being here.